I can remember her oldest one, name is Colin. Colin is 14 now. But he called her one day, and I would bet he was in second grade or something like that. And they were going to have a grandmother's day, or a grandparents' day, I'm not sure which, tomorrow. They live in Indianapolis. Nana said, I'll be there. Gone.
That's pretty.
Yeah, she's just that way. She's a very dedicated woman, dedicated especially to her family. Done a great job.
Priorities are in the right place.
Yes, they are, very much so.
Outstanding.
And she's really enjoyed Lakewood, and the gals at Lakewood have been, it's really been phenomenal. And she has a great support group up here. She just finished having a knee replacement. And everybody has been so congenial, willing to help her, and it's really worked out well. She's coming along slower than she'd like, but she works at it hard as can be. So I'm sure it'll work out good.
Where was?
Well, I think the main problem was, let's talk about that. We'll talk about that on the tape.
We're rolling. Go for it.
Well, as I recall, how we being Vic and I and Dave Lauterbach and Frank Domino, and I'm trying to think that got involved in a long-range planning committee. And there had been concern about every time we had a new president or a president had an idea that he would implement things on this golf course that didn't necessarily fit in with the golf course. Whether it was how things were being mowed or wanting to move a trap where it really just didn't fit, that all little stuff up to big ideas. And so I volunteered to be chairman of the Long Range Planning Committee, and I think that was in the late 90s. And we had a committee of about 5 or 6 people who all were dedicated to trying to do something, because we hadn't had a good operating long-range planning committee for a number of years. And the golf course needed it. Our objective was to have the membership accept a long-range plan for the golf course and put it in the bylaws, so it could not be changed on a whim, but had to be changed by a membership vote. To do that, we needed somebody who could come up with that kind of plan. And we really relied heavily on Dave Lauterbach to use his business experience in search to go search out someone who would fit a Tillinghast course, which we wanted to preserve. Vic Ermel was very big on preserving the Tillinghast course. We had a lot of information on what Tillinghast had originally designed, and we knew that there were some things over the time that never got, one, implemented when they first built the course, or have been changed as time went on, relative to simple things like trap placements. The trap up on the hill on the left on number 18, for example, at that time wasn't there, but it was in the original plans to be there. 15 was originally designed as a dog leg, but it was never built that way. We all kind of concluded that when you look at the original Tillinghast plan, some of the changes had been made because of economics, possibly, that the club trying to get started was very concerned about economics. So Dave went into this extensive search and found a few golf designers who specialized in rehabilitation, renovation of Ross and Tillinghast type courses. And we interviewed a few of them, and a guy named Stephen Kay, he has a much longer name, but he's shortened it down to Kay. And I can't pronounce what his real name is, but Stephen Kay really impressed us. And so we hired him. And over the course of 4 or 5 months, I'd say, he came up with a long-range plan of what we could do to renovate this course, to one, get it so it was functioning more like the Tillinghast course, because when Tillinghast designed this course, a bunker that might have been 150 yards, like on number 1, where we still have a bunker off to the right that's no longer filled with sand, but it was an old sand bunker, was in play because the driving distances were so much shorter than they are today. So we needed to get the distances connected better, the ladies' tees. This course was designed without ladies' tees, and we only have to point out number 14 so everybody realizes there aren't too many courses that have par 6s for ladies, which that one was, and it was still impossibly long. As he used to say, you guys are playing over 7,000 yards from the ladies' tee when the ladies are playing it, and you're only playing at 580. So it was all those kind of things that he went through and adjusted, and he came up with a plan of what we should do with Lakewood Country Club. Not necessarily at this time to go spend money to implement it, but this is where we should be going. And if we chose to do anything different, it would have to be approved by the membership. And he was such a personable guy. We had a membership meeting, and he came in and presented his plan. The plan had been out in published form so that people could look at it and have an opportunity to generate questions. And he frankly, I think, was maybe just as good a salesman as he was a golf course designer. And what he did was basically design the layout that we're looking at today. There are a few changes, few things that him and I have talked about long since it was done. The big one is the great hazard on 6, which I'm sure everybody has in their conversation and talked about. That was one of Tillinghast's traits, was the great hazard idea. And it wasn't really built in the original plans, but it would look like it was conceived in the original plans because there was mounds there, but they were all grass. And Stephen was convinced that those should be a big waste bunker with mounds in it. And when his explanation for it was, this would put really the statement of character on the course, because this is such a unique Tillinghast idea. But when he designed it closer to the green than it is today. And the reason he moved it back was when he saw how it was being constructed and where it was going to be, he said it just visually didn't look good because it was crowding into the green too much. You needed some space there just to make the visual look better. And so where we're playing it today is not where he designed it to go. It's where it visually looks better, though it might not play better. So where now the long hitters can fly over it very easily. The original design was it was going to give the long hitters more difficulty because it was going to be closer to the green. Probably 40 yards closer. But then it looked too crowded. But working with Stephen was a blessing. Very nice guy. I do think the golf course renovation when we did it was well accepted. It was all implemented under the Greens Committee. Long-range planning had nothing to do with the implementation of the plan, but we did have everything to do with the establishment of the plan. And I think I'm very happy at how it did come out. I think the course has has been improved, and I think we've seen some, and Stephen has come back a number of times to tweak things, whether it's the traps on 15 or whatever, just try to make it you learn as things go on. When we lost the big tree on 14, Stephen came back, and all the things that we were thinking about maybe we should do, hurry up and replant some trees and that type of thing. He came up with a much better idea, and equally challenging hole, but one that actually favors the higher handicapper a little more, because those low branches that were going to interfere more with the high handicapper than the low handicapper aren't there anymore. So I think it was a good change by him. Excuse me.
Back at the time, Bruce, when you took on the role of the Long Range Planning Committee, did you feel that there was any resistance from members or from the board or the current president about where you wanted to take that, or were you given marching orders at that point, or?
I think I'm pretty sure it was Mike Junior, yeah, who thought it was a good idea, and one of the real assets you have with some people, and Mike is a very good example, a guy who wants to do well and wants to do it right. And I don't mean to disparage any other past presidents, but I think Mike really wanted to do what would be best, not for his term of office, but for the long term of the club. I think he really has a long-term interest in the club, and he's carrying forward from what his father had an interest in doing earlier. So I think he was very much supportive of the idea of coming up with a long-range plan, but he didn't choose to get involved with it. He was happy to let us go about and bring it to the board. One of the nice things was we did make a couple presentations to the board, tell them where we were going. I mean, we just didn't leave them out they were spending money. You don't go hire a golf consultant not knowing that you're not going to cost you some bucks. So we had to raise, the board's awareness of the amount of money we were going to do, that we were just not going to go out there and let 6 guys that are members of this club think they were going to design this golf course. But I think some of the tee lengthening and some of those kind of issues, he very, very useful in making this a course. And Stephen had all kinds of ideas about, the new additional practice area. I mean, that was always one of his plans. He really would have liked to put in 9 extra holes, but in the end, that just didn't fit with what Lakewood needed. This course was built in a time when moving material was very expensive. So you didn't try to stretch out areas between holes, because that means when you needed dirt from over here to go there, it was very difficult to do. It was very labor intensive. Hey, and the 20s were a good time. People wanted to have the facility soon. They didn't want to just watch guys cutting trees all day. They wanted to get out there and get the course built. So Tillinghast, when he built this, built it very close together on a very large piece of property. So we sit here with a lot of area around the fringes of our property, which really turns out now to be a nice buffer. But if we could have just used a little more of it, we'd have had a little easier opportunity to lengthen the course in multiple ways. In the end, as you know, we were restricted really to just a certain number of tees where you could really lengthen the course. But, I look at some of his solutions to 14. I mean, he took 14 for the ladies from an impossible hole where you played you know, it's just do you realize that the ladies played 4 par 5s in a row? Yeah. Yeah, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
It was par 76 for the ladies.
76 for the ladies.
Unheard of.
So, you know, it's just, it really was a need to develop ladies' tees. And only one that he didn't get developed. There was a new tee scheduled for 9. If you're familiar with the ladies' tee, then there's a cart path behind the ladies' tee that comes around from 8 green. There was going to be a tee put back there for the ladies. There'd be 2 ladies' tees, so that the better players wouldn't be driving into that little rough area that's in the middle of the fairway, where basically men's drives come up short of it, or they'd like to force it to come up short of it. But the good ladies, unfortunately, tend to run into that area.